The students at the school need your help, Otis. And we need their money. I'll deal with the business end of things, and you can do the therapy. We'll charge for every appointment and split the cash.
Therapy?
Netflix original series can be quite a mixed bag. On one hand, you have shows taking risks with nuanced ideas to set themselves apart, and on the other hand, you have recycled plots, one-dimensional characters, and an over-reliance on angst. The consistency at which Netflix is able to be, well, inconsistent has me convinced they're doing it on purpose, creating a sort of pseudo-genre and a formula that comes with it. When a great show comes out, everyone talks about it. When a bad show comes out, everyone laughs at it. And then along comes a Netflix series that breaks expectations in all the right ways, giving us characters that go beyond their initial stereotypes, and stories that aren't afraid to get dark without losing any degree of levity. Despite this, not a lot of people talk about it. It's not unpopular, but I feel like a show with this much depth deserves a lot more than just rave reviews. So snag a snack, sit still, and settle yourself while we analyze Season 1 of Sex Education. There's not enough people with originality, so here I am to save the day, Janiac. The series begins with, guess I can't show it, huh? Well, we're introduced to our first character, Adam, who's knocking boots with his girlfriend, Amy. The only problem is, Adam's disinterested. So disinterested that he...
Oh!
Did you just fake it?
Don't be stupid.
We're then introduced to the series protagonist Otis, his mother Jean, the sex therapist, and his gay best friend Eric. On the way to school, Eric teases Otis about his inability to partake in the four-knuckle shuffle. Otis dismisses it by saying that he simply doesn't like how it feels. Once the two arrive on campus, Eric points out that the only thing on anybody's mind this school year is who they're shagging, past, present, or future, paying special attention to rumors of the fantabulous promiscuous escapades of one Maeve Wiley. We transition to a school assembly where we're introduced to
our brand new head boy, Jackson Marchetti.
In the hallway, Adam returns to bully Eric, taking his money and his lunch. Now, I know I said bully Eric, but the way the scene plays out is a lot more suggestive. Meanwhile, Otis bumps into Maeve in the hallway, and it's then that we discover the provocative rumors about her dating life may very well be true. In class, Otis is paired with Adam for a group project, all while Otis begins eyeing Maeve, who turns out to be friends with Amy. Remember her? How about now? Because high school social status means everything and definitely determines where you'll end up in life, the two keep their friendship a secret. Preppy girl Amy can't be seen with rebel girl Maeve. The two start talking about Adam's inability to reach the summit, so to speak, proving that Amy is more comfortable speaking with Maeve than she is with her fellow preps, colloquially known as the Untouchables.
Yuck. Is that ham? We're vegan now, remember?
Oh, right, yeah, I forgot.
Have you been smoking again?
No, I haven't.
Good, because smoking is definitely not vegan.
They remind Amy of their disapproval of her relationship with Adam, simply because he's a delinquent. We return to Maeve in the bathroom where she's selling school papers and correcting people's grammar. At the Milburns' residence, after removing any smutty item his mother leaves around the house, Otis greets Adam, who has no sense of personal space when it comes to nerdy boys. After telling Otis to do the project himself, oh, the accuracy, Adam finds Otis's mom's office. Reminder that Otis's mom is a sex therapist. So I'm sure you can imagine what Adam found there. It's not long until Otis's mother arrives, and after hitting it off with Adam, much to Otis's dismay, she says something quite interesting.
I have a number of clients who were heavy drug users at your age, and now they have trouble with sexual performance.
Prompting Adam to leave and Otis to argue with his mom about analyzing everyone around them. Seems like they've had this conversation before. The two then sit down and try to discuss Otis's devil's flute playing skills, or lack thereof. Otis goes to his room and texts Eric, who we see putting on makeup. After hearing what I assume to be Eric's father calling for him, Eric wipes off all of it. You know, it's small scenes like this that really alleviate this show from being yet another Netflix teen drama. Layers are added that help shake up the narrative and character archetypes. Speaking of which, we cut to Jackson and Maeve alleviating each other by removing their lairs and having a shakeup in a parking lot. When Jackson offers to drive Maeve home, she makes it clear that she don't want relations, she just want one night. Adam returns home and we meet his strict father, who is also the dean of Moordale Secondary School. That's the school everyone goes to, by the way. Adam goes to his room and...
Hello, lover.
How did you get in?
Amy tries to help Adam come to a conclusion about the relationship. How she got in and how long she was waiting is never made clear, but against Adam's wishes, she exits through the front door, angering Adam's father. Back at school, Adam assaults Eric and calls him a homophobic slur, to which the openly gay member of the Untouchables, Anwar, calls Adam out for it. This makes Adam leave for some reason. I thought it was weird because, why would a character like Adam care about political correctness? After Eric thanks Anwar for defending him, Anwar reminds Eric that they're not friends. Adam goes through his locker and finds some magic blue pills, of which he takes 3. Cause, let's face it, he does seem like a blue pill kind of guy. In biology class, Otis sits next to Maeve, and the two have to work together while being educated about intercourse. Somehow, Adam shared footage of Otis's mom's learning tapes with everyone in school, and then somehow, a student pulls up the footage on a CRT TV. What? Embarrassed, Otis leaves and Maeve follows. The two start getting to know each other when suddenly they hear a voice in the distance. Turns out it's Adam trying to get the magic blue pill out of his pants, one stroke at a time. Adam asks for help, and after Maeve tells Adam she knows about his performance issues, Adam confesses that he feels like he's under too much pressure, being known as the man with the third leg, prompting Otis to play therapist during Adam's plight.
It is interesting you mention your father. How does being the headmaster's son affect you?
Everyone's watching me all the time. Everyone's like, there goes Adam Groff. I guess that... I wish I could be a normal kid.
Otis tells Adam to own his narrative. Adam feels better, and Otis promises not to tell anyone as long as Adam stops bullying Eric. Adam goes to the cafeteria and...
I have something to say. My name is Adam Groff. Headmaster Groff is my dad. And this is my dick.
He owns his narrative. After meeting with Amy for some after-class full-mass pelvic dance, she breaks up with him because of their differing social statuses, thus voiding his deal with Otis. But that's the least of his troubles, because Adam gets detention for the rest of the term. Amy regroups with Maeve and tells her what happened. Upon discovering that Adam peaked in the high school, Maeve has an idea. At home, Otis is having trouble taming the dragon. He figuratively swallows his pride and confesses to his mother about his issue, but says that he wants to deal with it on his own. Maeve approaches Otis at school and pitches her idea. She figures that Otis can give the sexual novices around the school advice on how to have better, healthier, and thrustier relationships, all while charging a fee for his services, basically giving them some much-needed intercourse instruction. Otis complies and the episode ends. Right away, this show comes out swinging, pairing stylish visuals and seamless transitions with a robust narrative and creative writing, but at the center of it all are characters that are not only believable, but enjoyable. I don't watch a lot of TV, but let me tell you, this episode got me hooked immediately. It didn't take long for me to notice the potential for analysis. Episode 2 opens with a very awkward moment between two inexperienced lovers. While Jean counsels a couple about their lack of bedroom boinking, Otis eavesdrops to take notes, and after rehearsing his lines for Maeve's gambit, Otis asks his mom what it takes to be a good therapist.
Listening to people without inserting yourself into their reality.
So it's not about you.
Later, Jean is approached by a man named Harry, who shows romantic interest in her. She turns him down. At school, Otis has a nervous breakdown after realizing what he agreed to. Eric encourages him to go through with it because it'll give him the social clout he so desperately doesn't want. Maeve tells Otis she found them a client and to meet her in the toilets at break for the session. Meanwhile, Adam discovers that Amy is throwing a party that he wasn't invited to on account of the whole, You know. Maeve tells Otis that their client is a girl that threw up on her boyfriend's royal scepter while polishing it with her mouth. Overwhelmed with nerves, Otis says all the wrong things, prompting their client, Olivia, who turns out to be a member of the Untouchables, to leave and tell everyone how horrible it went. Eric suggests finding a way to sample these therapy sessions to help Otis get over his nerves and to help them reach more clients. Maeve realizes the best place to do this is at Amy's party. Otis doesn't want to go, but Eric encourages him with some pelvic thrusting, but like, not in the sexy way. Elsewhere, after throwing up, Maeve goes to the corner store to steal booze, buy water, and a pregnancy test.
How old are you, sweetheart? 12. Wish I knew who the father was.
The trio arrive early to set up shop, and back at home after ruffling through Otis and Maeve's science work, Jean notices Otis left his inhaler there. Being the well-meaning but intrusive mother that she is, she uses it as an excuse to go to the party and check up on him. Back at the party, Maeve suggests that the trio split up to cover more ground. Maeve bumps into Jackson, who invites her to Amy's hot tub, and...
That might be fun.
Hot tubs aren't really my thing.
What is your thing, then?
Complex female characters?
Hey, me too. After a failed attempt at striking up a conversation, Otis goes to the bathroom to isolate himself and combat his social anxiety. There, he meets Kate, who says she's hiding from her boyfriend after breaking his stick during a game of Darkstalkers. She says she prefers it in the dark because she finds her body disgusting. Cue her angry boyfriend Sam. The couple starts arguing right in front of Otis, all while Adam tries to get inside but falls on Jean's car. Otis intervenes in the couple squabbling, and Jean counsels Adam about his insecurities. She tells him to respect Amy's wishes and stay away from her, and Adam helps Jean realize that she needs to give Otis his own space. And just when you think Adam might have smartened up, he ignores Jean's advice outright. Inside, Maeve uses the pregnancy test.
Idiot.
Maeve takes Jackson to the bed where the two have a very nice nap. Eric tries to strike up his second conversation with Anwar for the night and ends up outing Olivia's polishing problem. Back in the bathroom, Otis goes full therapist and has Kate and Sam open up about how they've been feeling about their relationship. As it turns out, Kate's insecurities about her physical appearance stems from an overall lack of self-esteem. Otis leaves to give the couple some privacy and accidentally walks in on Maeve and Jackson. Adam finally breaks into the house and Eric gives the girls advice on how to peel a banana, all while Anwar records it. Outside, Otis runs into his mother and tells her to leave. Inside, Amy runs into Adam and tells him to leave. Adam starts a fight with Amy's new love interest and a lot of vomit gets thrown around. The sun comes out and everyone comes to their senses. Maeve says the therapy thing was a bad idea and leaves. She returns home to a warning about being evicted if she can't pay rent. If only there was a way she could make money giving people a much-needed plowing PhD. After Otis tells Jean to stay out of his life, we're brought to the school where we learn that Anwar shared his recording of Eric's banana peeling skills with the whole school, but Adam's too busy getting scolded by his dad to notice. In the school assembly, Otis gets a thank you note from Kate and Sam, and in a surprising twist, Anwar approaches Otis about his issue with different kinds of holes. Cue a montage of people around the school asking Otis for his therapeutic advice. The trio meet in the toilets, and Maeve says she'll handle scheduling and finances, while Otis handles the therapy stuff.
What shall I do?
We could, try,
Well,
They agree to find a more professional environment. Olivia gives them a second chance, meets them at the swim team game, swim thingy, and the episode ends. I love party episodes in any series, because it forces characters who usually may not interact to, well, interact. When done well, it can also give us some insight into how exactly the social realm works around the school. Maeve isn't exactly popular, but she has status because of her bedtime prowess, so no one at the party says anything when they see her and Jackson leave together. On the flip side, we have Otis and Eric, who aren't exactly losers or social pariahs. Sure, they get teased, but at no point does anyone question them being there or tell them to leave the party. As far as social status is concerned, Otis and Eric are just invisible. No one pays attention to them. I'll go into more detail about the characters later, but it's good to take note of things like this when they happen. Episode 3 opens with a girl drawing an erotic comic book involving tentacles. At the clinic, Maeve is being looked at by a doctor.
And have you considered the possibility of adoption?
Don't think anyone would want a pregnant 17-year-old.
As you may have guessed, Maeve is looking into undoing her pregnancy. The doctor says she can't go through with the operation unless someone is there to pick Maeve up once it's over. After Otis tells Jean not to go into his room, Jean does anyway and discovers that Otis wet the bed, but not with pee. At the school, Otis meets up with Maeve, who tells him he has 3 clients, all of whom require their sessions to be before school started. Unfortunately for Eric, neither of them bothered telling him.
It can be hard when friends find new interests, but you mustn't feel left behind. It can actually be an opportunity for you to find out what's important to you.
Jean gets a box full of books that make her angry. Don't you hate when that happens? Eric returns to school and is approached by the swing band teacher about joining. He hesitates at first, but after seeing Otis and Maeve hitting it off, he signs up without hesitation. Maeve tries to ask Amy to be her ride to the clinic, but Amy gets distracted. Jackson asks Maeve if she'll be at his swim thingy. She turns him down and hesitates to tell him she's pregnant with his baby. Maeve also gets accused of plagiarism, which is funny because, you know. Girl can't catch a break today. At the school assembly, Otis admits that his bedwetting had something to do with a dream about Maeve. Otis feels guilty about objectifying her, but Eric tells him it's normal to have these type of dreams. After the assembly, Maeve asks Otis if he can meet her somewhere after school. Otis gets nervous because he thinks she's asking him out on a date. Eric's swing band audition goes horribly, but because they're in need of a French horn player and because this girl raised her hand, he makes the cut. She invites him to some after-school flute playing, unaware of the fact that Eric is gay. But Eric agrees, unaware of her ulterior motives. At the clinic, Maeve meets a woman who invades her and everyone else's personal space. At home, after Otis suits up for his pseudo-date, Jean answers a phone call from Otis's father, Remy. An incredibly passive-aggressive conversation ensues where we learn that Jean used to write books but is experiencing writer's block, which caused her to lose her publisher. In a fit of rage, Jean comes up with an idea to write a book about nocturnal emission in teenage males. Otis meets Maeve at the clinic where he learns why exactly she's there. She tells him he arrived too early and asks him to leave. Outside, Otis sits with the protesters against undoing pregnancy, and for the first time we see Eric's family. Swing band girl and comic book artist Lily arrives at Eric's house, and the two go to Eric's room. Back at the clinic, Maeve goes through with the operation. Outside, Otis can't take the argument between the two protesters and decides to leave. One of them tags along. Back at Eric's house, Lily offers Eric a taste of her June plums after putting them on full display. Eric tells her he prefers bananas, so she puts those plums away. The two decide to have a makeover instead. At school, Jackson is having his swim thingy, and at the corner store, Otis and Protest Lady have a chat about Protest Man cheating on Jesus by fornicating before he came to Christ. She goes on to tell Otis that she's been to every base but never made a home run because virginity rocks. But not her rectal virginity, apparently. Jackson wins the swim thingy, and Adam sees his dad treat Jackson like the son he wishes he had. Otis gives Protest Lady a lesson in forgiveness, and Eric has a makeover with Lily. The two discuss their lack of experience and Lily's unquenchable thirst for that uncontrollable urge. Eric shows Lily a movie with two dudes in it, and Eric's dad walks in on them. He tells Lily to leave and tells Eric to grow up, get a job, and experience the real world. But more importantly, Eric's father says this.
Take that stuff off your face before your mother sees.
Here I was, thinking Eric wiped off the makeup in the first episode because of his father, but if we go back, what was actually said was...
Eric, come and help your mother.
Eric's father seems completely aware of Eric's lifestyle and identity. Whether or not he fully supports it has yet to be stated, but he loves his son regardless. It's Eric's mother that seems to disapprove of it completely. I have so many questions, but I'll get to them later. Reminder that I'm recapping these episodes during my first watch through. Anyway, Otis returns to the clinic and Maeve wakes up from the operation and has a touching moment with Sarah, the lady from earlier. Otis walks her home and the two have a conversation about their parents. We learn that Maeve's mother is an addict, which is why Maeve lives by herself. Interesting that she trusts Otis enough to go to her house, but not Jackson. Speaking of which, Jackson's being lectured by his mom about being a better athlete, even though the man broke his record today. And at Lily's house, she finishes the comic she was drawing at the beginning of the episode. Back at Otis's house, Jean is having a meeting with some people, and Otis is congratulated on his nocturnal emission. Maeve sends Otis a thank you text, and Eric plays Mario Kart with him. While studying, Maeve finds a photo of her and her mother from years ago, and the episode ends. This episode is a lot more focused on its main trio than the previous 2 episodes, and for good reason. We learn about Otis, Maeve, and Eric's families, and we even get a glimpse into Jackson's. We're also introduced to a new character, Lily. Wonder if she'll stick around. I gotta say, the way this episode bounces from one character to the next is seamless. The hallway scene definitely comes to mind, and it's great because it shows that there is life around the school, and I'm happy to learn more about it. Episode 4 opens with an awkward romp between 2 lovers. I'm starting to notice a pattern here. It seems Ruthie would rather watch an episode of Blue Planet than give her partner a meteor shower. At school, Otis and Maeve can't stop texting each other erotic art they find around the school. Eric calls Otis out for his infatuation with her, but Otis denies it. Eric takes a job at a pet place, and Jackson seems to have lost his footing in class, but Maeve is there to catch him with her lips. Once again, Jackson tries to have a legitimate relationship with Maeve, and once again, Maeve turns him down. For the first time ever, Jackson has a real conversation with Otis and Eric.
Hey man, I'm
handsome.
Jackson asks Otis for help with Maeve, seeing as how he's her friend, and he gives people relationship advice, completely unaware of the fact that Otis likes Maeve. He leaves before Otis is able to decline. In the dean's office, Adam is being lectured on how many teachers threw some D's on his report card. Adam's dad tells him that if he doesn't get better grades, he'll be going to military school. By the track field, Otis meets up with his new clients, the girls from the beginning of the episode. Otis's lack of experience discussing a 2-woman relationship and Ruthie's dismissiveness forces Otis to do some research. At home, Jean has a cold and confuses her repairman with her client. At school, Otis gives Jackson his money back, saying that it's unethical to talk behind his business partner's back. Jackson accepts and asserts his dominance. While talking about Maeve, Otis notices that Jackson knows nothing about her and accidentally gives him advice. In the library, Jackson pretends to read one of Maeve's favorite books, Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. For those uninitiated, the text is based on 2 lectures presented by Woolf in 1928. In it, Woolf discusses feminism and the lack of self-expression that women were granted. It stresses the importance of women being given the right to their own thoughts and ideas, instead of having them suppressed by male enforcers. This is important because it tells us a lot about Maeve as a person. Despite her bad girl persona, she takes literature very seriously. And if we go back to episode 2, when Maeve says her thing is complex female characters, it's interesting that Jackson never thought to ask what she meant by that. But here, we're shown Maeve's interest, and with foreknowledge of the literary material being presented, we're given a glimpse into what I assume will be fleshed out as the series progresses. Did I mention I graduated university? Eric tells Otis that he basically made the hottest guy in school even hotter, and Lily takes a note from their loud conversation. Seriously, these guys have no indoor voice. Jackson tries to impress Maeve by pretending to enjoy the things she likes, but his efforts are in vain. Back at home, Jean seems to fancy the repairman. She opens up about her fear of writing a book without her ex-husband, and the repairman tells her to get over it, in a much less condescending way. Otis goes to his room to watch some synchronized swimming, and the repairman's daughter shows up. She enters Otis's room right as the swimmers come to a climax, and suggests Otis get a lock for the door. While Eric is out walking dogs for his new job, he sees Adam, who he's been trying to avoid in every episode before this. Adam is walking his mom's dog, but trouble strikes when Eric's dogs scare Adam's mom's dog away. Maeve starts texting Jackson, and Adam's dad starts scolding him for losing his mother's dog. In the hallways, Otis is approached by Lily, who suggests the two have a no-pants victory dance since they both haven't danced with another person before. Otis declines, and Lily tells him where he can find her if he changes his mind. Jackson shows up to thank Otis for all of his advice, telling him that it not only brought him closer to Maeve, but also introduced him to his untapped love for literature. Back at home, the repairman gives Jean a soup and she starts writing again. In the toilets, Amy asks Maeve why she doesn't just date Jackson and says,
"Let's do a mind map in a fun way that engages all sides of your brain."
I mean both sides? Yeah, all of them.
They list all the things Maeve likes about Jackson and realize that the only problem in the relationship is Maeve not wanting a boyfriend. At the pool, Otis returns to his clients, telling them that their problem may have more to do with their relationship than just the positions they sleep in. But Ruthie shuts that down real quick, leaving Maeve and Otis alone. The two then have a discussion about why Maeve doesn't want a boyfriend.
It's just someone else let you down, isn't it?
After some unsynchronized swimming, Otis can't seem to get his trouser serpent to go down, so Eric encourages him to charm the snake into submission, but Otis put all of his XP into intelligence, so he has to level up if he wants that skill. After school, Jackson asks Otis for advice on how to ask Maeve out. Angry that Jackson might actually stand a chance, Otis gives him bad advice. Otis admits his love for Maeve to Eric on the way home. At home, Jean thanks the repairman for the soup and is too afraid to ask him out. Otis officially meets the repairman's daughter, Ola, and heads inside to find a lock installed on his door. Eric's dad finds dog poop on his car the next morning and tells Eric to clean it up before his mom gets home. Otis spots Ruthie potentially cheating on Tanya when Maeve appears out of thin air. In the hallway, after harassing Eric, Adam offers a load of cash to Maeve so she'll write his paper for him. In French class, Ruthie opens up about not feeling good dating Tanya, her best friend since preschool, and admits to cheating on her. Otis tells her to be honest with Tanya, and after hearing Jackson about to make a fool out of himself, he rushes over to stop him, but he's too late. My brother Jackson goes off and serenades Maeve in front of the whole school, and everything goes horribly right. Yeah, the bad advice actually worked in Jackson's favor. Not gonna lie, so far I think Jackson's my favorite character. I really liked this episode. It presented Otis with a challenge his pre-existing penetrative knowledge couldn't handle. It's such a shame though that Ruthie, who's initially put off by Otis, conveniently opens up to him in the classroom. Just cuz? It would have been nice to see Otis actually have to learn about a different type of relationship than what he's already used to, and actually have to work hard to gain Ruthie's trust. Other than that though, this episode was pretty great. Episode 5 opens with a horrible prank being pulled by Ruby, the leader of the Untouchables. A mass text is sent throughout the school with a picture of a lady's lovely lady lips, with a threat to reveal her face if she doesn't apologize. Outside, Maeve and Jackson discuss whether or not it's time for Maeve to meet his parents. She says maybe, and Jackson says he'll let them know. According to Eric, they've been dating for a month, which means a month has passed since the last episode, which means these episodes have irregular time gaps, which means Otis tells Eric he's over Maeve and gets him tickets to the musical Hedwig and the Angry Inch for his 17th birthday. More on that later. Elsewhere, the Untouchables are trying to guess whose tulips got mass texted, and after making fun of passers-by, we learn that...
What? It's mine. Okay, and I need your help.
Ruby asks Maeve if she can find out who mass messaged the picture, and we discover that Ruby once dated Warhammer Tom, a guy below her social status. Maeve says she'll do it for free. She asks Otis if he can help Ruby and lies about it being for money. Otis agrees to it, they interrogate Tom, and he tells them he couldn't have sent anything because he doesn't have a phone, and that after breaking up with him, Ruby dated a guy named Glenn, who previously leaked photos of another girl. Amy tells Maeve to dress less Cyndi Lauper and more Kate Bush for her dinner with Jackson's family. On Eric's way to the movies, his dad tells him he shouldn't dress the way he is on account of it not being safe or something. Maeve arrives at Jackson's house and we meet both of Jackson's parents.
I brought some wine.
Jackson doesn't drink.
Mom.
That's so thoughtful of you.
While Eric waits for Otis, he's approached by two men who wish him happy birthday. We return to the family dinner and learn that Jackson used to be afraid of being in water, and that his mothers see him as a miracle because they didn't think they could have a baby. When Maeve's asked about her parents, she lies about them being accountants instead of, She excuses herself to the bathroom, and Jackson's moms give him their approval. On his way to Eric's, Otis sees Tom calling someone on the cell phone he doesn't have, and tells Maeve what's up. After Tom tosses his phone, Maeve tells Otis to drop what he's doing and confront Tom right there and then. Maeve leaves Jackson's house just as he's about to invite her back to the table. Otis confronts Tom, who admits that he lied about everything except the fact that he didn't send the pics to anyone but his friend Kyle, Amy's new boyfriend from episode 2. Eric calls Otis asking where he is, and Otis tells Eric to stall the bus driver.
Could you just wait 1 second? My friend...
That was 1 second.
Otis misses the bus and apologizes to Eric. Maeve arrives, and Otis tells her Tom sent it to Kyle. Maeve says they should go find Kyle, but Otis refuses. until he doesn't. At Amy's house, Otis and Maeve approach Kyle, and after Otis blows up at Maeve for not being a good friend, Maeve explains that the reason she wants to help Ruby is because she understands what it's like being shamed, and then we learn the origins of her nickname. Otis tells Eric he can't make it, and Eric says he'll just go home. Amy meets a guy, Eric's stuff gets stolen, and Maeve explains the thrills of sending risque photos. Maeve convinces Otis to steal something, and Otis chooses a candy bar. At the cash register, he sees a familiar face. Ola catches Otis trying to steal, and after teasing him, she lets him have it. They return, and it seems like Kyle has no idea about the leaked photos. Otis tries to counsel Ruby, and it's then that we discover...
It's a girl. What girls hate you, Ruby?
All of them. I'm a bitch, Maeve. I'm a bitch to everyone.
After asking Olivia to call her a taxi from her phone, Ruby and the gang realize that Olivia must have sent the photos because she's the only one that knew Ruby's password. Elsewhere, Amy is pretending to study while she flirts with that guy, and the two have something in common. At night, Eric is walking home alone and he gets assaulted because of how he's dressed. This must have been what his dad was referring to earlier. Back at Amy's, Olivia is being interrogated. She admits to doing it because she hates how mean Ruby is to her, and to no one's surprise, Ruby stays mean because she sees it as being helpful. Eric finds some good Samaritans willing to lend him their phone so he could call someone. Otis gives Maeve his sweater, and this happens.
I'm a virgin.
What?
I thought you should know, so I am.
Yeah, that's totally cool. No judgment.
Cool.
Otis arrives home and finds Eric and Jean. She leaves the boys alone to have a talk, and the two argue about everything that's transpired. Otis says Eric is jealous, and Eric says Otis is delusional for thinking Maeve would actually like him. Those last three sentences really don't do this scene justice, but trust me, it's good. Eric returns home, and his concerned father tells him that if he's going to live like this, he'll have to toughen up. Maeve finally returns to Jackson's, and to make it up to him, she invites him over to her house for the very first time. Does Jackson only have one jacket? Maeve tells him that her mother is an addict and her father is still out getting the milk and a pack of cigarettes. Jackson tells her that he's been taking anti-anxiety meds on account of his life-threatening panic attacks, and that his mind is always racing because his parents might be getting a divorce. Then he tells Maeve,
"When I'm with you, it's the only time I don't feel like my mind's going like 100 miles an hour."
Giving her a much-needed lesson in perspective. At school, Ruby treats Olivia like she's invisible, and Eric doesn't show up. The whole assembly makes fun of Ruby because they know it was her vanilla delight being passed around. But then Olivia stands up and says it's hers. Then Maeve does. Then Amy does. Then Jackson does. This scene almost saved the episode for me. Almost. Though not a bad episode by any means, I feel like it could have benefited with smoother transitions and more focus. We have Ruby's plot, Maeve and Jackson's plot, Otis and Eric's plot, Otis and Maeve's plot, Amy's plot, and in other episodes, the handling of so many story beats was done with a greater deal of finesse. Here, we do a lot of, what's this character doing? Okay, now back to Maeve. Eric's plot is the B plot of the episode, and I kind of wish it was the central focus, rather than it being Otis and Maeve going on a scavenger hunt to help a mean character. I understand the intention though, showing the audience how out of focus Eric is by having him off on his own. I just think instead of having all these stylish establishing shots in the middle of nowhere, we could have actually seen Eric do something. Episode 6 opens with a flashback of Otis catching his dad doing the cheat and chonga with his client during a therapy session. Otis tells his mom, and she gives him his first bit of bedside brain food. During breakfast at Eric's house, Eric's mother says,
"Your bruise is healing. I keep telling you that bike is dangerous."
Eric's dad is the best. At home, Otis is on a video call with his father. Otis tells him he hasn't quite blossomed below the belt, and his dad says to just get it over with. At school, Jackson's practicing for his swim thingy, and his coach tells him Maeve is distracting him from his own success. Eric arrives at school and gives Otis the evil eye. Adam tries to bully him, but Eric just keeps walking. Amy tells Maeve that she needs to talk to Otis and that she's dating Steve now. He's that one guy. During a school assembly, Otis tells Maeve that Eric won't talk to him, and Adam wins the essay competition award. Then Adam goes on stage to read the paper he obviously didn't write. Maeve tells Otis their next client is Amy, and that he shouldn't mention his lack of groin grinding experience. So Otis decides to grind for some XP with Lily after school. At home, Jean sees the repairman from episode 4 and asks him to fix Otis's room from his previous outburst. At school, Amy tells Otis that her new boyfriend Steve did something unusual.
Tell me what you want.
I don't know what I want.
No one's ever asked me that before.
Otis says that she needs to understand herself better before continuing with Steve. During swing band practice, Eric is playing off time, and after the band insults him, Eric, the predominantly happy character, loses it.
Eric, come back here.
Don't f***ing touch me!
Shivers down my spine. Lily goes to see if he's okay in the halls after being insulted by Anwar, who I'll remind you is Eric's unrequited crush. He punches him right in the face. Can someone say catharsis? It was at this moment I realized the focus on Eric we so desperately needed is finally here, and boy oh boy was this not what I was expecting. Eric is called to the office while Maeve and Jackson have lunch together. After Jackson tells Maeve he needs to focus on his swim thingy, Maeve's brother shows up, and after some conflict, she gives him the keys to her house. Eric's dad has a talk with him after he gets suspended.
You told me to toughen up. Not like that. What kind of man do you want to be? What kind of man do you want me to be, Dad?
Maeve's teacher tells her that she knows she wrote Adam's essay and encourages her to apply for a university scholarship. At home, Otis is preparing for his 35 seconds in heaven. Meanwhile, Adam returns home to his family congratulating him. Maeve reunites with her brother, angry that he left her previously without saying goodbye. He cheers her up with waffles. While Amy's busy figuring herself out, Otis is having trouble grinding with Lily. Downstairs, I think, the repairman catches Jean writing, and the two start their own XP grinding. Otis starts having flashbacks and panic attacks while trying to get intimate with Lily. At Maeve's, her brother leaves to meet a friend. At Adam's, his family asks him to tell them about the poem, and obviously he can't. Back at Otis's, Lily shares her comic book stories with Otis, Jean, and the repairman. I don't remember them saying his name, so this is what I'll be calling him. Ola rolls up and honks for her dad. She then gives Otis her number and tells him to give her a call. Jean does the same.
It's nice meeting you, Jean.
It was nice meeting you too, Jakob.
Oh, that's his name. Inside, Jean tells Otis to try again with Eric. He calls, but Eric doesn't answer. Otis starts messaging Ola, but stops because he's nervous. At school, Jackson beats his own swim thingy record, but he misses Maeve. On his way inside, Eric tries to talk to Anwar, and a very interesting conversation transpires. In the first episode, Eric mentions Anwar being the only other openly gay student at the school. Here, Anwar tells him that he recently came out to his mother about being gay, essentially showing that his pretty boy lifestyle isn't as perfect as Eric thought. In the hallways, Amy thanks Otis for his advice. Maeve tells Otis her brother's back, and Otis tells her he liked her paper. Maeve asks her teacher how to apply for the scholarship, and the teacher approaches the dean about his son, Adam's, plagiarism. He dismisses it. At Amy's, everything's going well. At Maeve's, Jackson is hitting it off with her brother Sean, who persuades Jackson to lift his no drinking rule. Inside, Maeve finds Otis's sweater from the previous episode. I really enjoyed this episode. It's very straightforward. More focus on Eric, an exploration of Otis's character, and a happy ending for Amy. The only thing I'm worried about is Jackson. I really hope they don't screw him up. He's still my favorite character. Episode 7 opens with a kid leaving a dance proposal cake at a girl named Lizzie's door. Lizzie's dad accidentally steps on it, so Lizzie throws it out. At school, Maeve asks Otis if he's going to the school dance.
It's an appropriated American tradition that celebrates sexism and peddles an unrealistic portrayal of romantic love. So no.
Agreed.
After telling Maeve Eric won't speak to him, Otis sees his client for the day, Liam, who complains about Lizzie not going to the dance with him. Otis tells him Lizzie's not interested. In the halls, Jackson convinces Maeve to go to the dance with him. It's now that I realize Jackson starts publicly dating Maeve, and nothing changes about either person's social status. Why was he keeping it a secret then? Anyway, Maeve needs to get a dress for the dance. At home, Jean intentionally breaks the tap, hoping to see the repairman again, but he says he's too busy because, as it turns out, he's trying to get Ola enrolled in Moordale High. In the halls, Otis sees Ola, who asks if he's going to the dance.
It's an appropriated American tradition that celebrates sexism and peddles an unrealistic portrayal of romantic love. So
I like dances.
You do?
Yeah.
Otis asks Ola to the dance, and she accepts. Otis tries to reconcile with Eric, but it gets interrupted by Eric's mother, who tells Eric that he's allowed to go to the dance despite his suspension. Maeve's brother Sean helps Maeve pick out a dress for the dance, all while telling Maeve Jackson's not her kind of guy. After finding the perfect dress, Sean swindles the customers into paying for the dress because he and Maeve can't afford it. It works. fireworks, giving us a good idea of what kind of person Sean is. On the way from the grocery store, Eric helps a stranger with directions to a wedding reception. The two seem to click. Ola arrives to pick Otis up for the dance, and the repairman arrives to do what he does best. On Jackson's way to the dance, his mom tells him to be home on time, reminding him that he has training the next day. Jackson is understandably upset. At Eric's, he takes up his mother's offer to go to church. At school, Adam's dad tells him he's aware of his plagiarism and that he's disappointed in him. Jackson arrives at Maeve's and is so focused on breaking rules with Sean, he doesn't even notice Maeve's new look. At home, Jean breaks the bed with the repairman so he can stay a little longer. At school, Sean puts booze in Jackson's drink and insists on going inside the school. I really don't like Sean. In the halls, Maeve and Jackson run into Otis and Ola. Awkwardness ensues. At church, Eric is greeted with love, and the Christians are not depicted as evil. It's about GD time. Back at home, Jean tells the repairman about her ex-husband and gives him a psychoanalysis. He tells her she's wrong and that he's a widower who would like to repair Jean's broken heart. At the dance, Otis is an awkward mess and Ola convinces him to dance. Maeve sees them and gets jealous. Elsewhere, Sean convinces Liam to tag along with him. Maeve follows in secret. Adam sees Amy with Steve and gets jealous. Maeve catches Sean selling sunshine in a bag and tells him to stop. Eric dolls himself up to go to the dance, and...
Wait. I'll drive you.
His mom's right there, so I guess she's okay with it? Was I wrong this whole time? In the bathroom, a jealous Maeve tells Ola that Otis hasn't rearranged anyone's organs before. After selling more bag powder, Sean runs into the principal, who tells him to leave. Sean takes Jackson's car, but Jackson's too drunk to care. Otis asks if they've seen Ola, and Maeve lies. Otis finds her in the art room, and Ola tells him that she's never had her organs rearranged. Otis calls her a house cat, and she leaves. Never call someone a house cat. Eric arrives at the dance, and he and his dad have a powerful talk about self-acceptance. Adam sees the respect Eric's dad has for him and tries to insult Eric. But if the previous two episodes have taught us anything, Eric ain't having that, bro. Inside, everyone stares at Eric. Otis apologizes and the two dance together. Lily meets a guy, and Liam, under the influence of Sean's sticky icky, tries to jump to his own demise, after being denied by Lizzie. Otis talks him out of it by giving a speech about unrequited love, all while Maeve eyes him down. Jackson does not approve. Adam pushes Steve off of Amy, his dad intervenes, and Adam gets something off of his chest.
I hate you.
Adam's dad finds Sean's beans in Liam's jacket. Outside, Otis tells Maeve that the therapy sessions need to stop, and Jackson tells Maeve Otis is the reason they're dating, angering Maeve. She arrives at Jackson's house, and his mother's controlling behavior causes him to storm out. At Otis's, he runs into Jean's boyfriend from the first episode, and finds her writings of a boy and his phobias. Wonder who that could be. At Maeve's, Sean and Maeve argue. Jackson shows up and asks if he can stay, and then he says,
I love you, Maeve.
Prompting Maeve to say nothing. Overall, another solid episode, though I will say Ola and the repairman kinda just disappear once their scenes are over. I would have liked to see Ola by herself, to see how she dealt with Otis's buffoonery. This episode does a great job of displaying how possessive Maeve can be when it comes to Otis. It's interesting that 2 episodes ago, Maeve, who was already dating Jackson, was totally about to kiss Otis. Does Maeve not see that as cheating, or like, whatever? Episode 5 was also where I believe we got the first instance of the therapy sessions being referred to as the clinic. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. The last episode of the season opens with Lily and her new boy toy role-playing her comic book, but their lack of experience prevents him from conquering her galaxy. After texting Ola, Otis prints a copy of his mom's work. Adam wakes up in the school, and Jackson wakes up in Maeve's bed. He says he's not going to training and that he doesn't expect her to say that she loves him back. Adam returns home to his parents, who are worried sick. At home, Otis gives his mother the silent treatment and then shows her the pages he printed.
You should consider using a thesaurus in the future. Your vocabulary is very limited.
Otis tells Eric why things went south between him and Ola, and he and Maeve get called to the office. In the halls, Anwar compliments Eric, Adam leaves him alone, and the swing band teacher accepts his apology, but reminds him he has 2 weeks of detention. At the office, the dean thinks Maeve and Otis have been pushing pills on students, when in fact, it was Sean. Maeve takes the fall for her brother, so the dean doesn't call the police on him. After Maeve refuses to tell Otis what happened, Lily asks him for advice in the halls. At home, Jean's new new book is sparking interest with a publisher, but she needs time to decide whether or not she wants to publish this work about her son. After her pipes burst, she calls the repairman, who tells her he won't fix pipes for someone who can't even remember his name. Nah, it's because he wants a real relationship. In the toilets, Otis tells Lily her constant need for control is stopping her from being probed. In detention, Eric has to clean the music room with Adam. At home, Otis tells Jean that she's crossed far too many boundaries for her to be considered anything but a hypocrite, and Ola comes to the door.
My dad sent me to fix your sink.
While Jackson complains about home, Maeve tells him to be thankful he has parents who care about him. Maeve confronts her brother about him getting a job and her getting a scholarship. She doesn't mention the cough syrup, though. Inside, Jackson ignores his mom's calls and... Okay. I'm starting to not like Jackson, but I wouldn't say they screwed him up. I'll talk about it later. While laying down in Maeve's bed, he finds Otis's sweater with his name stitched into it. Back at detention, Adam is bullying Eric. You know, the usual. Pushing, choking, kissing, wrestling, spitting, wait, what? Oh, this changes everything, and really puts a lot of things into perspective, huh? Outside, Otis and Lily try to learn how to go with the flow. After falling off his bike, Otis asks Lily why she's so desperate to be deflowered. She says she's afraid of being left behind, and Otis says not to think of it that way. Back at school, Eric tries to talk to Adam about what happened, but...
If you ever tell anyone about this, I will fucking end you. Do you understand?
Otis asks Eric how detention went, and Eric acts very defensive. Maeve is called into the office and asked why they shouldn't expel her. Maeve drops a literacy bomb on them and admits that she knows she can do a better job at school. Dean says they'll need time to make a decision. Adam arrives in science class to play handsies with Eric. Maeve leaves the office, blows up at Jackson, and...
Come here.
Don't touch me.
What?
This is too much.
Do you love me? Just say you don't. And
I don't.
Jackson leaves. In the dean's office, Jackson says he's not going to be an athlete for the school's funding if Maeve gets expelled. The Untouchables approach Maeve to insult her, but Amy publicly dumps them for Maeve. As I mentioned previously, there were a few times Amy spoke to Maeve right in front of them, and no one cared? I guess it's circumstantial? I would have loved to see more of it instead of it just being this informed attribute that occasionally rears its head. Outside, Otis and Eric see Jean in the parking lot, and she admits that she thought writing a book about him would help her understand him better. The two have a heart-to-heart, and Otis says there's something he needs to do. In detention, Adam is a no-show, so Eric is let go. On his way home, Adam finds his mother's lost dog, but it's too late because he's going to military school. Maeve returns home to find her brother missing, and Jean goes to the repairman's house. How she got the address beats me, but she says she'd like to repair their broken relationship. He invites her in for another cup of soup. At the store, Otis reconciles with Ola, and at school, Jackson finally gets to swim for real. It's a thingy no more. He wins, but the dean says...
Did she say?
I don't take bribes. I suggest you forget about Maeve Wiley.
Now that's some old bull. Maeve learns that her brother left once again, and that Otis stole the writer's trophy for her, and with it, he left an apology letter. Eric sees Adam leaving for the military school, and Maeve sees Otis kissing Ola. She returns home and finds Amy, who wants to learn how to properly play that card game from the very first episode. The episode ends with Otis finally slaying the Cyclops. I guess farming with Ola really paid off. And that's the end of Season 1. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the season, but I will say I liked the first half a lot more than the second. In the beginning, the show has this raw charisma that's accentuated by Otis, Eric, and Maeve's different personalities being placed in a variety of situations, leading to both comedy and drama, never leaning too far in one direction by abandoning the other. But the last 3 episodes rely heavily on drama created by a new character we know nothing about, at least where Maeve is concerned. And it feels kinda cheap, seeing as how we already had refreshing plots being set up since the first episode. I can say with certainty, though, that the most consistent thing throughout all 8 episodes is how easy it is to understand each character and their motivations. For a show so deeply rooted in sexuality, it's an interesting choice to have a protagonist that's never experienced it. Though this has been done before, what makes Otis stand out so much is the fact that he gives relationship advice, despite never being in one himself. He gets called out for it numerous times, but his advice always works, even when he doesn't want it to. This is unique because it presents the audience with a question. Is it a good idea to take advice from someone who hasn't experienced what you're going through? Say, for example, you were trying to quit smoking. Would you want someone someone who knows the pains you're going through to help guide you out of the habit, or would you rather someone who has never smoked to bring a fresh perspective and maybe even a more optimistic approach to quitting? If you're married, would you want advice from someone who's been through divorce, or someone who's never been married at all? In both cases, I've heard arguments justifying both sides, but I've yet to see this perspective translated so naturally into a character. Of course Otis is going to know a lot about reproductive organs. His mother is a sex therapist. The problem is his lack of social skills, that arguably could also be attributed to his mother. It's the same reason why so many of Otis's conversations with characters other than his best friend Eric are so, how you say, book heavy? You know what I mean? If his flashback is anything to go by, then Jean really has some splaining to do. Jean was never shy of telling Otis the truth about what sex is and what it can do to people. She's a pretty open book when it comes to her son, so we understand her frustration when Otis doesn't open up to her. When paired with her losing her husband to some client of his, we can see why Jean would be so dismissive of all the guys that show interest in her. But not Dan for some reason. Jean's pretty casual about the whole sex thing, so I'm guessing her attraction to the repairman started with physical attraction that became something more the minute he started making her work for it. Though she's not exactly at the forefront of the series, Jean does have her own little arc about letting Otis be his own man, which again, we totally understand why it'd be so hard for her. She's lost everything else. Overbearing nature aside, Jean is definitely a trustworthy person at heart. Just ask Eric. In episode 5, after being assaulted, the first person he calls is Jean, saying that it's at the Milburns' house that he feels the safest. I guess that has something to do with Jean being more accepting of his identity than his own family. It's not outright stated, but hints are there that his family may not be on board with it, at least not his mother, but his father is definitely accepting of who Eric is. For his 17th birthday, Otis buys him tickets to see Hedwig and the Angry Inch. For those who don't know, Hedwig is a pretty wild story, but what I've gathered from it is that it blurs lines of gender identity, comments on politics through ancient philosophies, but most importantly, expresses how it feels to be overshadowed by someone you built up. In the musical, Hedwig writes music with her supposed soulmate, Tommy, but once the two break up, Tommy steals Hedwig's songs and goes on to be a world-famous rock star, while Hedwig is left to fend for herself, playing at small coffee shops. The parallels to Eric's situation are pretty apparent. If it wasn't for Eric, Otis wouldn't have gone through with Maeve's plan to begin with, and once Otis does, he slowly starts to leave Eric, who he claims is jealous of Otis's newfound hobby, a hobby that he should really be thanking Eric for instead of just ditching him. The amount of development Eric goes through because of this is pretty great though, punching Anwar and standing up to Adam being two of my favorite Eric moments. But you know one thing that I really don't understand about Eric? His attraction to Adam. Through a majority of season 1, Adam does nothing but harass and abuse Eric. We later learn that Adam secretly likes Eric, so I get why Adam would kiss Eric, but like, why did Eric kiss back? It almost feels like he fell in love with his abuser, and it just bothers me because I feel like Eric would have had enough self-respect to not want to get involved with someone who's made his high school life a living hell. Beyond that though, it's easy to understand Eric's motivations in practically every scene he's in. I just wish he got a bit more screen time with Maeve. You'd think being best friends with Otis would cause Eric to at least try to talk to Maeve, especially considering how cool Eric thinks she is, but the two only have a handful of conversations without Otis being there. Eric seems to be a big fan of musicals, and Maeve seems to be a big fan of literature. There's gotta be some crossover there. Maeve's literary prowess contradicts what one might expect from a rebellious character with a rough childhood, but something that really caught my attention with Maeve is how much the series dwells on her. There were a number of moments where I questioned whether or not Maeve was the protagonist instead of Otis. She certainly has a lot more scenes by herself than any other character in the whole show, and she's easily the most independent thinking of all of them. She also has this character tick where she bites her fingers when she's nervous, which is cool because a lot of the time Maeve tries not to show weakness around anyone, and whenever she's surrounded by classmates, she has this very no-nonsense attitude that I really enjoy. To put it simply, when Maeve's on screen, the plot moves forward. Despite being a very determined person with strong opinions, she's also shown to be incredibly sympathetic, even towards people that have harmed her, which is why her breakup with Jackson felt kinda okay, let's talk about Jackson. Of all the characters in the show, he's easily the most relatable for me, having to live up to all your family's expectations because you're an only child, gradually cracking under the pressure of it, all while wondering whether or not you genuinely want to fulfill those expectations. What made Jackson work so well for me at the start is how optimistic he is about everything, despite not truly being happy. His relationship with Maeve is a clear indication of him wanting something of his own choice. All of his other life decisions were made entirely by his mother, so it's easy to see why Jackson would want a real relationship with Maeve instead of just glass touching in a car. One could also infer that the reason Jackson seems so overbearing towards Maeve once their relationship is official is because he's inexperienced. And this is where I take issue with Jackson's characterization. It's never made 100% clear whether or not Jackson has had a girlfriend before, and judging by his social skills and popularity, I find it hard to believe that Maeve is his first. Maybe he never had time for relationships before because of swimming, who knows? Did he start his relationship with Maeve just for fun, but then he started catching feelings? Who knows? What we do know is once Jackson starts officially dating Maeve, he stops being his own person and starts revolving entirely around her, which again is common for someone new to a relationship. But like, what are his goals? What does Jackson want to do with his life outside of Maeve? All he does is complain about his mom and his swimming, and once Sean enters the picture, all he wants to do is party to make up for lost time. Speaking of Sean, I really don't like him. He shows up, causes drama, then disappears. I already mentioned how cheap this feels, but the way he also affects Jackson's plot makes it seem like they needed a reason for Jackson to rebel. Surely it couldn't just be out of his own ambition, right? Nah, we gotta have Big Bad Brother come in to ruin everything. Maeve only mentions him once before Sean even shows up, and in all honesty, her mother was built up a lot more than her brother ever was. But before anyone else came in, the closest thing Maeve had to a good friend was Amy. Amy is such a fun character, and I particularly like her little arc about understanding herself before entering a relationship. It's also made abundantly clear why Amy chooses to stick with the Untouchables for so long, feeling pressured by her social status. What I didn't quite understand was her attraction to Adam. Was Amy really only dating him for his third leg? Dialogue in the first 2 episodes seems to suggest that, which is pretty superficial, but also makes me wonder how Amy couldn't have known what she wanted if what she wanted was a big dick. Joking aside, maybe Amy just wanted to be dating the guy known for being larger than life, but his personality is what got in the way of Amy actually loving him. Adam's perspective isn't really shown beyond the bathroom scene. He fights for Amy's affection numerous times, but it's never made clear why. Is it because he genuinely loves Amy, or is it because he just doesn't want to see another guy with her? Did Amy breaking up with him hurt his ego so much that he just wanted to reclaim her? Maybe it's a bit of everything. What comes as a not so shocking revelation, though, is that Adam is bisexual. It is foreshadowed quite a bit, but I wonder if Eric is the first guy he's ever been attracted to. If not, then was Eric the only one he ever showed his affection towards? Maybe we'll find out in another season. At the end of the day, we understand that Adam being a bully towards Eric has a lot to do with his insecurities. The same can be said about the Untouchables. Ruby, Olivia, and Anwar played a much smaller role than I initially expected, but I like what was done with them. Anwar and Olivia definitely had layers, but I'm most curious about Ruby. She says that she doesn't see her behavior as being mean, she sees it as being helpful, but like, why? Where is this coming from? A snobbish family that also treats her the same way, or is this just her being a spoiled brat? I guess we'll have to wait and see. The only other characters I think are worth talking about are Lily and Ola. I've never been a huge fan of characters like Lily, a character that can't read social cues and is therefore blunt about her intentions and awkward in her delivery. She's just not my cup of tea, but I can already tell that this show is gonna make her important somehow. Surely we can't just have one awkward character, right? Ola is pretty cool, I guess, independent thinking and is open about how she feels. Case in point, she initiates the call with Otis, but I must admit, it feels like she's just here so Otis can't date Maeve right away. Nah, we gotta wait till season 3 for that. Sure hope I'm wrong. It was smart to introduce her in episode 4, but I couldn't help but feel it was just a setup for the final episode. Like, we know virtually nothing about her other than her father not being from this country, and that she likes Otis because she thinks he's funny. If Ola sticks around for the show, it'd be nice to understand her confidence and maybe even see how her personality might clash with another person with strong opinions, like Maeve. We do get glimpses of this in episode 7, but again, after Otis calls her a house cat, she just disappears till the next episode. She's also very forgiving towards Otis, too, which is like, why? Why is Ola so nice to him? Is she like this with everyone? Now, I've only seen the first season, so please don't spoil anything, but I hope we get some cool interactions. Eric and Maeve, Lily and Maeve, Eric and Ruby, Eric and Jackson, Jackson and Adam, maybe even bring back some of the couples we saw in the first season. I, for one, would like to see how Ruthie's story is playing out. Overall, this series has a fun cast of characters that are the main reason why I kept watching in the first place. So, if you're looking for a series with very interesting characters, be sure to check this one out. It's on Netflix right now. It's not often that a new TV show catches my attention, especially one from Netflix. But I really gotta give credit where credit is due. This show is not only written well, but has characters so intriguing that I wanna know where they'll go next. Case in point, look how long the video is. The show got renewed for a 4th season, which means there's 2 other seasons that I could easily analyze. But first, I'd like to see whether or not you guys actually enjoy this kind of video and format. It's not what I'm used to, but I always like proving that I've watched every single episode before doing any video, and what better way to do that than by literally talking about every single episode. Since I haven't seen the other seasons, please try to avoid spoilers down in the comments, and try not to message me on Instagram about what happens next. Speaking of Instagram, be sure to follow me on my social medias, but especially Twitch if you want to see me live stream. While you're at it, be sure to follow the Junior and Marcus Talk podcast, where we talk about movies, TV shows, and whatever you want us to talk about. If you're already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to my backup channel, Janiac Jr., in case anything at all happens to this one. And finally, please check out the merchandise. Every purchase supports this channel. And Discord. Follow me on Discord. Join my Discord. Go on Discord. You can talk to everybody in my community on Discord. So, what did you think of the show the first time you saw it? What was it that caught your attention and what caused you to keep watching? Let me know in the comments down below. Until then, I'll leave you with this.